How's everybody doing?
Well, how are you, sir?
Doing good. So my name is Omari Whiting. I'm a sophomore computer science major with a minor in Chinese studies from Richmond, Virginia. And I'm one of the student ambassadors here for the Higher Education Ambassadors program. So me and a few others really wanted to have this event so that the student ambassadors in this program can talk about like their experiences throughout the year and some of the skills that they gain from this program and how can they use it, after next year. And also, I know like the program just received $1.6 million, and so yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah. And so like with the help from Dr. Jensen, Dr. McClendon, and the student ambassadors, we want to like try to plan for like next year and how can we use that to like further continue the work that we're doing this year. And so if we can all like go around and like just quickly introduce ourselves, Morehouse intro. Can you start?
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Robert. I'm a freshman sports journalism major from Brooklyn, New York. And I'm here because I'm very interested in becoming a student ambassador. And it's really personal to me for like prison reform and just, it's something I've always thought about doing, and I want to pursue that.
Good afternoon, my name is Sinead Young and I'm a professor of psychology and also here in the Andrew Young Center, just a big supporter of the program and you all.
I'm Kipton Jensen. I'm directing the Andrew Young Center Higher Education in Prisons program. I think, some faculty had taught in prisons way back when. So Sinead had taught elsewhere, David Wall-Rice had, but we didn't have like strategic plan for doing that. So I've been teaching on again, off again for 5 years. It's really only in the past couple of years that the Andrew Young Center stepped up with funding in order to pay for faculty. And in the past 2 years, we've had 2 cohorts of student ambassadors, 10 each time, where we pay a small stipend, provide some training, provide clearances and books and that kind of thing. And I think it's unique to Morehouse. And it's so powerful on the inside. And just yesterday, Mr. St. John was inside the U.S. Federal Penitentiary. And the students on the inside really like meeting the students on the outside. So I'm grateful to each of you who've served this year.
My name is William Brown, sophomore business management major from Chicago. And, I heard about this from Omari, and I just want to learn more about it and maybe try it next year.
My name is Jair Jordan. I'm international and global studies major with minor in public health, sophomore as well. I'm also a student ambassador for the prison higher education.
Can you make sure like you speak up so like the phone can? Anyway.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tristan St. John. I'm a junior psychology major with a minor in leadership studies from Brooklyn, New York. I also am a higher education and prison ambassador. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out this morning, supporting, or rather this afternoon, coming out supporting, learning about the program. This program is very personal to me. It's something that I feel like has been one of the most impactful things in my matric tradition at Morehouse. So I'm just, interested to share my experience and hopefully talk about how we can carry on and, move the program forward in the future.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am Raquel Marshall. I'm a junior political science major from Clark, Atlanta. I'm just here for support and to congratulate you guys for all the great work that you've been doing.
Good afternoon. My name is Rodney Walker. I teach leadership and social justice here at Morehouse. I also graduated in class of 2012. Degree in philosophy and psychology, and the prison industrial complex has influenced and impacted every aspect of my life up to this point, and so I'm really just honored to be able to be a part of the work through Morehouse College and the Andrew Young Center, so appreciate the time for being here.
Hi everybody, I'm Hope Hilton. I'm an adjunct art professor here at Morehouse, and I also am the site director at Metro Reentry Facility through Common Good Atlanta, which collaborates a lot with us. I think I started with 2 friends incarcerated, and now I feel like I have 150 incarcerated friends. It's been a really incredible experience, and thank y'all for your participation and your hope.
Once again, my name is Omari Whiten, sophomore, computer science major with a minor in Chinese studies.
My name is Masudo Lafani. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I teach art here. I am class of '94. I have a direct relationship to the prison industrial complex. I have family members who have been in jail for a long time. So there's a personal connection there. I also believe that the jail system is full of so much untapped potential and potentiality. And we are wasting so much of what can move us forward as a human family when we incarcerate people without the possibility of rehabilitation and restitution, because most people who are in jail are going to get out. And it's only a matter of what kind of world they're returning to and what skills they've been able to develop, whether or not they will choose to make a contribution or choose to do otherwise. So, to be involved with something that is redemptive and restorative for me is deeply impactful to me. So glad to be with you, brothers and sisters, as we go through this process. So looking forward to learning.
Good. What's going on, guys? My name is Emmanuel Lee. I'm a sophomore journalism major from New Jersey. I'm here because I feel like this program has the potential to have a profound impact on the world in general. I really just want to be a part of it in any aspect. So I'm here to support. I'm here to check out ambassador positions or whatever.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liam Westman. I'm a junior political science major on the pre-law track from Brooklyn, New York. I am not an ambassador, but I did help Amari with setting up this meeting, and I actually want to learn more and kind of understand the effect of prisons on either high schools, colleges, and just around the surrounding areas of Atlanta and even greater.
Hello everybody, my name is Jaden Ellison. I'm a sophomore psychology major from Queens, New York. I just came to learn more about the program and just see how this program can affect the world and how I can be a part.
And so, I know we have
You got a person who can introduce themselves.
Oh,
Just more house intro.
that's quick. What's going on? My name's Elijah Megason, a junior English major, economics minor from Brooklyn, New York. Happy to be here. Just listening.
And so, I know we have like some of the student ambassadors here from the program, and I was wondering if we can quickly like share our experiences throughout the year, you know, how we found out about the program and like something we learned or something that impacted us doing this work.
I guess I can go first. So I found out about this program in my email sophomore year. By the time that I found out and I wrote the application, it was too late, so I didn't actually get accepted. However, I realized that this was a program that I needed to be a part of, so I went at it again the next year, made myself acquainted with Dr. Jensen, and did everything I could to be involved. Being from a community that's heavily system impacted, I felt like I said earlier, this is very personal to me. So my experience on the inside has been very different than what I thought it would be, but in a good way. We tend to have this stigma about prison and the people inside, and being in there just made me realize they're just people, they're just regular people who made mistakes, who made that turn in their life, and this program is supposed to be, something that can rehabilitate these people, bring them back out into the real world with skills like you mentioned earlier, and make them contribute to society, because there is so much untapped potential. I meet people in there and I speak to them and they tell me they have all these degrees or where they've been, where they're from, and it's just like, wow, like you have so much, and I know that you can offer so much to the world, and I don't think because you made this mistake you should continue to be, a part of a perpetual cycle that's going to continue to incarcerate you over and over again. So I feel like the purpose of this program is to stop that cycle dead in its tracks and make sure that these people are able to, come out and be greater than what society continues to say that they are, So that's been a little bit of my experience. I don't know if you want to speak through.
Yeah, and I also, excuse me, I also agree with what Tristan said. I received an email regarding this program initiative, and it was directed over to me by Dr. Adams, who was also the head over the Overbrook Free Scholarship Program that I'm a part of. And after telling her about my involvement when it comes to prison reform in New Jersey, she thought that this would be a great way to get a part of doing what I was doing beforehand. And I can honestly say that being a part of the program, I have learned a lot and witnessed a lot. And just by, I've been also very impacted by everybody's statements, experiences, and even their own personal testimonies as to how their direct connection to people they know have, impacted them in a way which they want to give back to those who are also incarcerated. And I've also have had my share of having, personal connections with people who have been incarcerated as well, which is why I'm very passionate about prison reform and going back into the prisons and helping those individuals and speaking with those individuals and learning about them on a personal, human level, and not to ostracize them out of their community. And so, so I have only been in one time, and that was last semester, because of the fact of my hectic school schedule and a lot of my late classes and early classes, and it kind of coincides. But I think that this was definitely a great experience in a program that I think all young black men should be involved and part of, to give back into their community in a way. So it has been nothing but a great experience being a part of this program.
I know for me, I also found out about the program through an email, and I personally had some friends in high school who was in and out of the system, and I thought that this program was the best opportunity for me to learn what's going on and personally see what can I do to stop that cycle continuing. I know here in America we have a big problem of just when we send people to jail, we don't give them the tools when they're inside for them to actually grow and build themselves to become better when they leave. And so usually, they keep, they get out and they do the same thing that they're used to doing. And so, being a part of this program, I've been able to go inside Metro Reentry, I think 3 or 4 times, and really just seeing how the guys inside, they want to learn. It's not that they don't want education; they want to learn. It's just that for some reason, it's people in the way that's blocking them from actually receiving that. So just working for that cause of just no matter what you've done, you deserve a second chance. You deserve the change. Just talking to the guys inside and being able to just sit in the classes and it's been very helpful. I've been able to meet a couple guys inside from one of my classes, and I came back again and I told him I went to Ireland, and he told me the next time that you come, can you please bring some pictures, because even though that I can come out of love to live my experiences throughout you, and that was very touching to me, because it really shows that these guys, they care about us, and they love to see ACC students there and care about students, and they want to learn. So I think that's my portion of actually being a part of the program and actually talk to the guys inside. And, I know we have professors here who actually teach inside, so I was wondering if I can get you guys report of how you got into teaching inside, some of the stories if you have experiences.
You want to go first? Or you want me to? I can go first. Okay, cool. I can go first. Rodney Walker, once again. I had the privilege of teaching at Metro Reentry last fall, and we taught about 25 adults in custody. And I personally taught a class called Entrepreneurship and Social Justice. It's basically taking the same concepts about business and just turning it on its head, making it more like a life class. So making a business plan out of their individual lives, using the same concepts and principles.
They're still talking about it. I mean, I'm there 3 nights a week. They still talk about Mr. Walker's class.
appreciate that. I appreciate that pride.
No, it's cool, they want you to come back.
It's, I believe in that. I believe in that kind of education in general, but just pivotal, like just as far as adults in custody, it just seems so profound to teach that type of education. Education that looks like, versus coming up with a mission statement for a business, like what's your mission statement? Like what's your purpose? Like what's your model that you're gonna live by? Like the creed that you're gonna live by? Like the same thing we do with businesses. Like what's your your investment that you're gonna make? What's your return on investment? What's your social responsibility plan? Like how you're gonna give back to your community? Like what kind of what kind of price are you gonna pay to get the change that you want? And then how much is it gonna cost and how much time you have to put in? Like so all of those different entrepreneurial concepts, I ask the adults in custody to think about in that kind of a way for their own lives as they go through this reentry process. Because Metro, was the institution that was preparing these adults in custody to go back out into the real world and to go back into civic engagement with all the skills that they would have learned in that space. So it was an honor to teach that. I felt both optimistic and hopeful, and then at the same time I felt very pessimistic at the same time, and a little bit kind of overwhelmed by the idea that there's still so much that we were doing on the inside that hasn't reached the outside, so to speak. So many institutions and organizations that haven't really bought into the value of adults in custody being that potential that we were talking about. So it was good to see how those adults were leaving my class with a sense of hope and having aspirations from what we talked about, while at the same time realizing they would have so many constraints that I couldn't in that class address. Constraints like not knowing how to use technology, not having access to adequate, proper technology, not being able to control the fact that when they go into a space of employment that they have to revisit and re-reconcile and renegotiate the mistake or the choice that they made that landed them in that space. So it's just, it's almost like fighting an uphill battle a little bit, psychologically and practically. So I did struggle with that part. But I do think that education component that we did, and that I did specifically, was the first step in dismantling a whole host of challenges that they would face, in the space they would. So it was an honor to teach the class.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I actually printed out the application for this from my email 2 years ago, and then I thought that I couldn't apply for it because I was adjunct. I'm a professional artist. And then one day I heard from Dr. Jensen asking me if I was interested. And I was like, I literally had the application ready, but I just didn't think it belonged to me. I agree with a lot that you said, because it is difficult. The heartstrings are pulled, man. And there are at Metro, yes, many returning citizens that will be our neighbors soon. But there are also, I have 5 lifers in my class. They're never getting out. And that's really hard to see them every week, to see the language change from inmate to, it changes all the time, but now it's returning citizen. But I have 5 students who are not returning citizens, and I don't like using that language that I'm told to use, right? I hope that they will one day get out, but their life sentences are pretty solid. And the laws have changed since, which makes it even more difficult. They love any connection to just the world, through education, through reading, through photography, through images of our lives. So right now I'm teaching a drawing class for non-artists. The one artist snuck in. His drawings are so, I was like, what are you doing here? But that's okay, that's okay. It has about 20 people in it. I expected 10. And I have a student who has never drawn in his life. who drew a cardboard box as instructed from life, looking at it. It's not a great drawing. It's actually one of my favorite drawings, but technically, it's not a great drawing. Nobody can draw great the first time they draw. He is so proud of that drawing. It's like the best thing he's ever done in his life. He put it up on the wall, he kept looking at it, he was like touching it, he's like, and it's hanging in Wheeler Hall right now on the second floor. If you want to go see it, it's front and center above student selfies. So they are now on display, and next Wednesday I get to take in a video of the exhibition and be like, look at all these people looking at your artwork, right? I can't put their names on it. I don't like that. That's a form of erasure that really bothers me. But we have to meet them where they are in terms of the system, so we can continue impacting it. And I have 4 very young men who just got out. They're texting me, we're gonna have a cookout, like they're involved with Common Good, they're gonna go play Frisbee or something. I'm not doing that, but it's too hot. But it's just really nice just to see the continuation in the world we're neighbors. It's our neighbors. So, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And it is hard. And I think that's something actually that's important to address. And like, how can we connect and talk about that trauma that we experience, or things that come up, or like things that revisit. Like the first time I went to Burris, I came out and I sat in my car and cried for like 20 minutes, and then they made me leave. They were like, ma'am. But I was like, I can go anywhere right now. And I just hung out with 20 guys who can't go anywhere. I could go to Dairy Queen. I could drive to California if I wanted to. So, like, how do we, I think this is part of it, how do we support one another as we go in and come out? Yeah.
Dr. Jensen, you want to share?
Not really so much. I feel like I talk about all the time. I'm a philosopher, and philosophers should have ears the size of elephants. So, I think teachers are fatigued talking all the time by the end of the semester. But this has been the most meaningful thing that I've done. I've been at Morehouse for 15 years. It's been amazing. But this feels right. Feels like I agree with Rodney Spivey-Jones that HBCU should be at the front of this movement. I think Morehouse is the right place, the right time. Students on the inside are crazy about Morehouse. Disproportionately large number, I think it's maybe 90% inside the U.S. federal penitentiary of the students. Some of that is self-selecting. But we want to think about what they need, not about what we get out of it. I think a lot of people are interested in standing up and talking about it, but very few people are willing to do the work. And I think I'm learning that. And so I want to do the work. I want to invite other people who are going to do the work. And I think there's lots of different work to be done. I think policy and advocacy is important. I'm a prison abolitionist, but I wear that up my sleeve, not on my sleeve, because I don't want to be locked out of this work. It's that important to me. Like, I want to protest. I don't want to get arrested, because you get arrested, you're not going to get in. So I care enough about that. And I want to listen carefully to what you all want, and do my best behind the scenes in order to make that happen. So very excited about what the next 3 years holds for us in the Andrew Young Center. I think the Andrew Young Center was committed to this work before anyone else was. And it's the right place for it. And I think we've learned a lot along the way, and we're going to learn a lot more. So I feel lucky to be involved in this project, and it gives me energy, and that's a good sign. I think it is very heavy work, but when you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, it pays, rewards in terms of coming alive. And I repeat that, I strum that chord all the time. Howard Thurman is the reason I came to Morehouse in the beginning. He says, ask not what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs are people who have come alive. So I recognize how I've come alive, willing to make sacrifices for the sake of something. I've seen how faculty have come alive. I've seen how students come alive on Morehouse, men of Morehouse, but also on the inside. Sort of seen those men that we work with, primarily men. I think that you worked at a women's prison for a little while, but to see the men on the inside come alive and eager to talk about what they've read. So that's been a joy. So I cherish the work and invite you to work with us. Do you want to say a word? I know you're always put on the spot and you're really exhausted. But you and David Wall Rice, you know, were maybe the first that I knew of who had done this work at all.
Yeah, I have to leave shortly, so I'll make it quick, but I'm happy to see so many students who aren't yet ambassadors in the room, and commend all of the students and the faculty who have been ambassadors really, you know, for faculty. I think this work is so important, and I know that no one in here believes that you all are missionaries. But I want us to be careful, because the things that got people in there are the things that all of us do. And so we have to really look at it as a system versus individual. I mean, and you know, obviously there's some onus on some individuals, but I think that it's really important to understand that it's the individual within this larger system. And I know, I'll speak for myself, there, you know, especially when I go to the women's prisons, there's nothing separating me from them. It's luck, right? And I think when you kind of approach it in that way, you tend to look at this whole thing a little bit differently. And so while it is wonderful to focus on individuals and their growth and all of that, the policy piece, I think, is also as important. And it's important to also educate your friends and your family, because we have to disabuse people of these ideas that they have around individuals who are incarcerated. And once we can start to do that, this becomes much bigger than any of us, which is what we want it to be, which we know that it is. But I'm so glad that all of you are in here, and you know, we're all touched by this in so many ways, and I'm grateful for all of you. So thanks for letting me be in the space, and sorry, I hate to eat and run. It's very, very rude, but I just wish you guys well, and we'll continue to support these efforts as well.
The chaplain at Metro said, everybody in here is just like us, they just got caught.
Exactly, exactly.
So there is a grace in it.
And hyper-surveilled, that's why they were caught, so.
Yes, right.
And most of them are 5 times more likely to get caught than I was. So that we have to acknowledge that and then make use of the privilege, you know, in order to get rid of that disproportionate impact. Maybe, Professor Olafani, if you're willing to just talk about the classes you're going to teach starting next week.
Well, I'm doing our history course, which will really, for me, focus on, I really believe that creativity and artistry, no matter what discipline you're in, whether it's visual arts or music, whether it's television or film, whether it's writing, I believe there's alchemy and magic at the heart of creativity. And so for me to get the same thing that I do with students here is to really hope to help them to tap into the understanding, the idea that imagination and creativity is a form of alchemy. Right? So that when we look at magicians like David Copperfield or Houdini or whoever is a well-known magician, that artists are in many ways doing a very similar thing, just with different medium. Whether that's through shaping and forming steel, carving wood, using video or sound, working with marks on paper, however you go about doing it. But you're creating an experience for a viewer to transport and take them somewhere. And so that language, that kind of coded language, is a way of interacting with the world that can give you a certain amount of ability to transcend your circumstances. And so for me, really focusing on that aspect of creativity, the history of art making, the fact that within the context of African philosophy and
and creativity, how in Europe, where the written text is prioritized as the primary modality of knowledge transference within the context of the African worldview, and indeed indigenous worldview, that's only one of many. There's also knowledge transference through the body, through dance, through food, through what you wear, through the oral tradition. And all of those are on a continuum, right? And so to get them to help my students here, but then also working with the men on the inside, hopefully to help them to understand that when you're engaged in telling your story, you're involved in a legitimate form of historical knowledge transference on par with the written text. And so for me, it's really important to help them to tap into that awareness and that knowledge. I'm sure some of them will already be there, but certainly there will be some who because of the impact and influence of society, the society that we live in, where it prioritizes the written text, and only one way of knowing this will be new information for them. So, yeah.
I wanted to touch on some of the points you guys made. I feel like they're really good. Definitely about the part where, there's really no difference between us and them. It's just luck. When I went back yesterday, it was actually the first time I had been to the U.S. Federal Penitentiary this semester, so it was probably my third or fourth time, but I've seen a lot of familiar faces, a lot of people, that I built relationships with the first time I went, a lot of new faces as well, and one of the new faces that I met, he told me he was an alum of Clark and an alum of Howard. I've also met a Morehouse man in there, so I feel like that just should tell you in itself that, it could really be any one of us, and I feel like it's our mission to continue to pour into them how they pour into us. I met somebody, one of the incarcerated individuals there I'm actually the closest with, he's South African. I told him how I had recently came back from South Africa again, and he was just ecstatic to hear that, and that really had an impact on me, especially, we were able to exchange experiences in that way, and he was teaching me about South African culture, so I feel like that's and a really important part of the experience, not only you teaching them, but they teach you as well.
I think one general question that I have for everyone here is, I know on behalf of the Andrew Young Center or the Higher Education and Prisons Program or Morehouse itself, what do you guys think that we can do to stop the pipeline from school to prison pipeline here in our local community? And I wanted to see if anybody had any ideas and inputs on ways that Morehouse can, be more effective in the community and stopping that pipeline. Because I personally, I tutor 8th graders down the street. I heard Mr. Russell. He has tutors as well, and so
That's one way.
yeah. So funny story is, I tutor from every Thursday from 12 through 4, and he comes at what time he comes?
4 to 6.
4 to 6, and so he does after school, and I do 8th grade English, and so talking to one of the students and trying to get him to do his work, and he just wouldn't do it. He's like, bro, I'm gonna go stay after school and I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna go outside. It's a hot day today. I can't wait to go play basketball. And I said, you have not wrote a single paragraph this whole class. And he kept trying. He's like, that don't matter, bro. I'm gonna pass the test anyway. I'm gonna go play basketball. So I got something for you. Called him up. I said, I bet not see him playing basketball today. No way. Took a picture. I said, what's your name? Told me his name. Told his name. I said, if he stay after school, make him do his work. If you don't do it, fine, but you better not be playing the sport. I better not come next week and it's, bro, I had a nice time playing basketball. So that's my experiences in the community, and I know just doing that program that Morehouse needs to have a bigger influence in the neighborhood. I know that a lot of students know about it, but they don't really they do the regular tour, but they don't really learn anything. They don't take that. They just see it as a field trip to get out of class. So I wanted to know, like,
You know, I wanted to I guess address that point. I would love to just like talk about something that Shanae said and that was like short-winded, but it was so very important to this conversation. So this semester I teach Intro to Black Leadership, and we're focusing on you know, the impact that our communities are having on the prison industrial complex and things we can do, things like that. And part of the service learning project that I asked the students to kind of like investigate or explore ways that we can contribute to that restorative and redemptive piece of you know, of the criminal justice system and the prison industrial complex and all that's to it, and how we can be involved in a proactive and constructive way. And you know, and this is not what's more outside, but I gotta say this. In a lot of ways, in the small sample size of about 100 students that I've talked to here at Morehouse, a lot of ways the students here are somewhat, and don't nobody come to me for saying this, but a little antithetical to some of the more harsher lived experiences of the folks that I've talked to in prison. And what I mean by that is, and I'm writing about this, of the 100 students that I've taught, 75 of them have grew up in two-parent households.
Yeah, right.
That they grew up in areas like Memphis and Detroit and Chicago and San Francisco, and I mean like Compton and stuff like that. But they grew up in pockets of privilege that kept them a little bit away from what ultimately would have been something different, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that to, you know, because like I said, like I can say it because I went here.
It's true.
Right, I you know, like I didn't grow up like that, but in my story is very much like a mirroring image of like kind of the stories that I hear about, like, you know, with adults in prison. But I've found it hard to reconcile that the average Morehouse student's just not like that. Mm-hmm. So I found myself like talking to like Morehouse students about the school to prison pipeline, and it's almost like they feel like I'm trying to pry something out of them that's not there. Like I tell them about like, well, I ask them questions like, if you can rate your relationship with your mother on a scale of 1 to 10, like what is that? Like I know my answer, but most of them, the students they ask like, that's a 10. And my mom was like, you know, I'm like this with my mom. Then I asked them like, if you can relate your, you know, like do it for your dad. And my dad's relationship, you know, obviously is non-existent. And a lot of the folks behind bars, their relationship with their father is non-existent or very toxic. But here at Morehouse, it's just like, yeah, my dad made sure I was out in the streets. I don't know what that's about. If I came to the house a minute late, my dad was like, where you at? You know, my dad called me every day at Morehouse, every other weekend or something like that. You know, my parents is not together, but my dad is always like in my life and things like that. So I found myself trying to, investigate or even in some type of way instigate similarities between all of us here and those who I work with in Metro and possibly USP. And I found it hard to wrestle with this fact that, man, is it like really that different? Like maybe it's just not there. So like when I'm trying to understand how we can contribute to the school to prison pipeline, and y'all can, you know, cross-examine me on this, but I'm about to say it, but like, I'm trying to find a way to figure out how we can do that, not from the lens of shared experience. Right, like, that I can't just talk to any, like the brothers in here and just assume that your dad beat you when you was growing up or was not there, was in jail, that your mom was negligent and abandoning you, or you grew up in foster care, or you grew up seeing people like get shot on the street, or like having to worry about like where you go in the neighborhood because you don't want to go down the wrong neighborhood and things like that. Like I gotta reconcile with some guys actually grew up and went to private school in neighborhoods where the average family household was comparable to the average American family household in the middle class neighborhood. But they didn't have to worry about those elements, even though they knew about it or they was talked to about it. That discipline in your home didn't look like traumatic experiences of discipline, and like, you know, you happen to be scared of looking over your back and like who's gonna chastise you about what. Like that's not everybody's experience in the broader African diaspora of our community and society. So about being here on this side, I've had to really wrestle and reconcile with that. So trying to talk about the school to prison pipeline for me in that way with students is very hard as far as trying to get some type of like consensus about how we do the work. You know?
Yeah, I don't feel like they have to be though. I mean, I feel like there is proximity obviously, to a certain set of social conditions, gives us a kind of intimacy with that experience, right? And we know that over 90% of people who are incarcerated experience abuse. But I also know, I think there was a dimension of being a Morehouse man matriculating through this experience, in many ways matriculating through the Spelman experience and the Clark Dunn experience, which is about this idea of mutuality, right? That there's an interrelationship and interdependence beyond the particulars of our own personal experience, whether that's two-person household, single-person household, abusive household, non-abusive household, right? And so it seems to me that even though one might have a very different experience, one also has to recognize that one is invested in the outcome, that one has an interest in the outcome. Because again, these brothers and sisters are gonna come back to the community, right? They are gonna be part of community.
Our neighbors.
So, exactly. So it may be awkward for me to be in a space that I'm not necessarily familiar with. It's awkward for me as a black man sometimes to be in spaces that are all white. I'm sure many of us have that experience, right? There's a hypervigilance that we have, an awareness that we have that goes up, right? But I also know that there's work to be done in those spaces that is going to have a direct impact on the quality of my own life, the life of my family, the life of my friends. And so I remember that Dr. King, that quote that he used to always say by John Donne, we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. You know that quote. Mm-hmm. And so it's how do I participate in the reality of our mutuality, you know, and stumble through the discomfort and the awkwardness of not having a proximic experience that is necessarily related to my brother who's had a different experience, or my sister's had a different experience. So I just think we have to fumble through that, you know, and recognize that what happens in there has a direct relationship on what happens out here. And we have to struggle, however awkwardly, to try to fill the gaps. It's gonna be imperfect, it's sloppy. But I think we have to try. I'll say this. One of the things I think is so key with students who have, no matter where they come from, whether or not they've had very challenging circumstances or not, and anybody that we happen to come across, it's important for us to remind each other of our own nobility. That the substance of what we're created from is noble. Doesn't matter what your background is, what mistakes you made, you haven't made. When I look at you, I see nobility. And that, even though it seems like a small thing to me, is an intervention. It reminds me of who I am and how I've been created. And I might choose to not act nobly. I might do something that is not noble, right? But it doesn't change what the substance is on the inside. You're acting a certain way, but that's not, this is who you are.
Yeah, that's an absolute profound point. One of the texts that I had the students read this semester was obviously it's a common text here in Morehouse, New Jim Crow. So, and it talks about the school to prison pipeline in all of this microcosmic ways, how subtle it is. Yeah. And a lot of students did not feel the very subtle elements of that pipeline come to Morehouse just because of their lived experiences, which we all like kind of. Which I review in a lot of different ways, but when we talk about like the subtleties of different early childhood experiences, like with the broken households and divorce and poverty and growing up around communities that's not, don't have safety and security and things like that. So going from those elements of how subtle it is from somebody to go to high school and to be involved in the criminal justice system or even have negative relationships with law enforcement or perceptions about law enforcement early, that perpetuates this kind of very subtle and subversive system into that element of criminal justice, I guess. If you do not have, I guess if you haven't been exposed to that sort of subtlety in that way, and I'm trying to engage you about it in a proactive way about what we can do to kind of overcome it, then you're right, like those conversations about what we can do collectively they really do have to be entrepreneurial in a sense. Because you won't know, like, I just think that you wouldn't know, like, I guess subconsciously what we can even talk about as far as, well, beyond the text, I guess, or beyond what you've learned through, like, your experiences of being in these spaces, like what to do. Like, I find it hard to say that in a like very comprehensive way, but it's more like, you know, when these guys get out, we need to, like, you know, bring them to like a gym, or bring them to the annex of a high school. We just all need to get around them. We need to ask them what they need. We need to come with food. We need to come with men in the neighborhood. We need to come with 100 black men. We need to come with, like, the moms who, like, there to validate them and affirm them and give them all the affirmation that they need and stuff like that. But like, when we talk about, like, adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma and all the things that subtly led them to being where they are, the same luck that we kind of experienced that they unfortunately did not. A part of it is kind of like beyond luck. It's a microcosm of so many different things that perpetuated an element of not surprise. Like, they're there because of many different things coming together, like a concert of things that a lot of us didn't experience. And so that entrepreneurial part is absolutely, like, it's spot on, because I think that it's going to be hard to, I guess, do that work from that lens in just this space. But I'm sure we're not going to do it in isolation, but I just think it just requires that a lot of different ways.
I wanted to speak on a point that you made in terms of, you know, lenses and whatnot, and I think, you know, it's important that we understand, you know, where Morehousemen are coming from, why they think the things they do. And you spoke about two-parent households. I come from a house I had both my parents in my life, the majority of my life. That being said, I grew up in the neighborhoods, 1 in 4 people in poverty. My high school, 63% of the people there are economically challenged, you know, and we went to school down the street from Hofstra University. If you know Hofstra University, that's one of the best performing schools in New York. And I also feel as if my high school was, you know, drastically impacted by the prison to school pipeline. And I feel as though it's crazy how we have one of the top ranking universities in the state down the street, and they don't intervene, don't invest in the community, don't do anything in the school. And I feel that's something that Morehousemen need to do. Even if you're not a part of, you know, the higher education and prisons program, I commend you for going out into the community and actually engaging the kids on that level, because they need to see our faces. They need to know that we care. They need to know that, you know, right? Like, when I was younger, we used to look at Hofstra and be like, I would never go to Hofstra. That's down the street. Why would I want to go there? Right? And I feel as though that's the way a lot of the children in the West End, Vine City feel about Morehouse. You know, we think we have this mystique about ourselves, and they don't feel the same way, because to them we're normal. And they have that perception.
There's animosity.
I
grew up around here.
Exactly.
And it's like, screw that place. They think they're better than us.
That's the next thing. We walk around with this bravado, and we don't show them why they should care, why, you know, show them that we care, show them how they can, you know, better improve themselves, and you know, how maybe they should navigate, right? A lot of those children are also economically challenged, may not have two-parent households. So seeing a face like ours, you know, come in, speak about experience like higher education in prisons, I can imagine how impactful that would be to them, because I know if I had somebody like that come and tell me that when I was in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, that would, you know, change my life. And I was fortunate enough to end up here, despite where I come from, and that is heavily, I would say, dependent on my parents, you know, for, like you said, kind of navigated me through that environment and making sure my head on was straight despite everything going on around me. But a lot of these kids, vast majority of them, don't have that. And we have a school that's 100% black men. Why are we not outside constantly trying to intervene in these schools, right? My school had a no tolerance policy, which I think is like the most harmful, craziest thing ever. If you don't know what that is, that's basically you do anything, you're suspended. I got suspended one time in my life because student didn't go through the metal detector to get into school. He didn't get pat down, and I didn't know that, and I opened the door for him, right? So they kicked me out of school for that. Had I been another student, I would have took that opportunity and maybe never came back to school. I've seen that happen, right? So I think we need to number one, look and understand the policies in our schools and know how they're harming the students. And two, we need to just be, you know, on the ground, actually in the school, doing the work, talking to them, seeing where they come from, you know, pick their brains and see how we can actually help instead of just being here taking up their space, you know, building into their neighborhood. We need to actually contribute because then we're just gentrifiers, you know, so.
I was gonna say to touch on that topic, not only just being in there and talking to them, but I found helpful because I actually tutor at Fulton Leadership Academy. If y'all don't know what that is, it's an all boys middle and high school. And like I would tell them like, oh, like I know a lot of Morehouse people that may be able to help you all. Like if you need help like trying to figure out what you want to do for college and things like that. And they're like, well, you know, they come and they speak, but how do I know they're not lying? And so I had actually participated in a day in the life with Collegiate 100 at Clark Atlanta, and I feel like that was a lot more, I guess, engaging for them, actually being able to be on the campus and see what we do instead of just being like, oh, well, they're in college and they're always busy and they always have stuff going on, but actually to be there with them to see the actual day in the life, like what do you do, and to actually engage with the professors because at HBCUs, our professors are more like family than they are a professor. So, yeah, I think that would be more helpful as well.
And I think to keep it consistent, like, we're not missionaries. And a lot of my experience, I mean, I know a lot of missionaries from my youth. And you go in and you paint half a house and you leave high-fiving each other, but what did you really do? Like, you just did that for your own bravado. How do we stay consistent, whether, like, I have somebody right now who can't leave Metro because he doesn't have an address. Did you know you can't leave prison without an address? He has nobody. So I gave him my address, because so what? I love the guy. He needs to get out. It's an address. It doesn't mean he's gonna live at my house, but it does mean that I know where he is, because I'm responsible. But it's like, how can we remain in terms of the Morehouse man? That's always very confusing to me anyway, because nobody's one thing, right? But the service component of that Morehouse man, I don't see enough of. Service is really about getting outside of ourselves and understanding the world. And I mean, I was raised by an activist, Quaker, minister, teacher. Very, very lucky, very privileged in that sense. But I grew up, like, service is just part of what I do. Naturally, and my name's Hope, so I'm kind of doomed. But it's like built in, you know. But how can we do something consistent? I mean, I do think that this program is very consistent. And I see us being very consistent. So if we're gonna talk about moving beyond, like, how do we work in the neighborhoods, or, you know, how do we not show up like colonizers or gentrifiers? How do we show up like human beings with light? How do we show up and be alive? I mean, that's really just inspiring life just by being alive. You don't have to teach them sentence structure to inspire, you know, to inspire success.
You know, something that you said like earlier about you know, folks that you work with are going to be in there for life versus those who are returning. Like that's an important distinction to me, because the way my brain processes that from my lived experiences is like, you're working with someone who has life in prison. To me, it's like saying, like, you know, you can't get out. So let's just at least be in community with each other. Let's just like be in community. Let's learn from one another. Let's, like, you know, as you're serving life behind bars, like, I want you to know you're not doing it by yourself. That's a definitely different message than from somebody who's returning and saying, you know, let's work together so that we can all be on one course about being neighbors when we get out. Like, you know, you're not I can't say to you what I want to say to him who has life in prison, which is that, no, bro, you're not getting out. No, you can't get out. What you did, we can't allow you to go back in the neighborhood. Versus like the one right next to him, we gotta say, okay, now you gonna get out, but you're gonna be living next to my daughter. You're gonna be living next to my sister. So I wanna make sure we giving you the right, proper education,
Right.
and the right community, and the right,
Yeah.
you know, exposure, and the way things are working. I just think like to wrestle with those two concepts in one space, I think it's something that's it's a very, very understated thing in the work. And I think that, you know, from a big picture standpoint, we just need to like really tackle it.
And listen, these 5 men that I work with, 10 hours a week, who are in for life, they are reminders in a very strange way of hope. And that, I did not anticipate that. I mean, these are guys who are full of light that I couldn't even imagine having in their situation. I couldn't imagine being in prison for life and being full of light and wanting to share. I mean, I would hope that that's what I would be, but what an impossible situation. I mean, they are at the reentry center as mentors. That's their job. They don't get paid. But it is a good place to be. It's like the best prison. So they made it, technically.
Metro is nice.
Metro is nice. But yeah, there is that component of forever. I didn't think life meant forever. I thought life meant like 30 years. It also depends on how much money you have and who your lawyer is and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, we just have to be light. Light's magic.
It is, can't do anything without light.
Nope, and it's freaking free.
Yes, it is.
It is free.
I'll say 2 things quickly, and then I want to hear from some more students, some of whom have been studying policy and advocacy all semester, you know, so I think we got to hit it like that. I think black men are profiled, whether you're Morehouse man or young adult, like your profile. So that's commonality, objectified by the white gaze. That's terrible. And as Michelle Alexander says, that blackness has been identified with criminality. So how do you like break that without being like, I'm the exception to the rule, you know? And the other thing is, and kudos to you, like you're reaching out to Booker T. Washington. They are so close, they don't know anything about us. So I think maybe student ambassadors, that we should be working there. Also, City of Refuge, which is nearby, amazing place. You know, I think we can be involved in those ways, like advocate on campus, but you're right, get out there. Just statistically, you know, a black professor in a classroom changes life trajectories. So it's cool, but students?
Sorry, I just gotta say this one more thing. You gotta say that Morehouse is an incredibly bureaucratic place. And what I mean by that is that you have 500 Morehouse students at any given year, and faculty, by the way, all with shared experiences to some degree, not like being across the street at Booker T. Washington or down the street at Mays or at the City of Refuge. And it's all because Morehouse has a very bureaucratic infrastructure in place that don't allow teachers to take all these kids off campus and have them marching down the street, because we live in a microcosm of a Wakanda-like environment in the middle of like poverty, that we're just not out there. They don't know like we're here. Or you gotta say that the students don't care because they don't share lived experiences. They're not the truest reflection of the West End community. That the folks that like literally the students that we recruit here at Morehouse and sent to Du Bois Hall, which is like right there on Joseph E. Lowry, and I was in Du Bois, so I can just say it, but half of us was on academic probation coming here. Like we didn't come with no 4.0 GPAs from the best schools where we from. If you was in Du Bois Hall here, like you came because, you know, Morehouse like all these schools. I mean, you applied to all these schools and you didn't want to go to community college, and Morehouse is the only school you got into because they took a chance on you. Probably them another school, but like, so. So if you in there and you don't know like this neighborhood and you're not out there because your professor or the school's not advocating that, like that's just saying like we don't care, or we are not in this space with that type of compassion for where we're from. So I just had to say that because I do think that we need to find the root of all of like why Morehouse is so absent.
I think I have something just on that. It's more so, I think you're right. It's a lot of people we don't have a lot of people that have experienced that type of life. So at the end of the day, people don't really feel connected towards wanting to go out in the West End and put themselves in either in danger or wherever else to actually help because they've never experienced it. So it's like, I don't want to say it's all their fault because since they've never experienced something, how can they help? They don't really understand it. They don't want to come off as more so, and I bet the best word to put it is tacky. You know, they don't want to seem like, oh yeah, that we're just trying to experience what you guys are experiencing just so we can look good or just do a photo op. Because sometimes Morehouse is like that as well, honestly. And I think, and it's the truth. But I think, and I think now it's just more so getting people that are in a like-minded group such as this and go out because that's how you really affect more change than just trying to bring a bunch of bodies and people just because you want to look good. No, it's just take the smaller group, go into the communities and get a personal experience so that one, you're actually speaking to these people and they're going to remember you. And a large group, for the most part, they might not remember who is who because they're talking to so many people. But a group like this, they're going to remember who you are as long as you put yourself out there. So I think that's one of the main issues, and that's the way we can solve it.
It seems like it is an issue in every college town too. Like UGA, it's like the college versus Athens, Georgia. It's like Hofstra versus Brooklyn.
I'm from Brooklyn, but it was
Queens.
Uniondale, Long Island.
Don't remember. Okay.
Yeah.
Yale versus New Haven.
Yeah.
That's a big
I
one.
think
Right, that's a
Howard
big
feels
one.
the same way to me, because you're talking to Howard.
Yeah.
Howard's the same. Yeah, it's that same kind of, it's a cocoon, Howard is his
Yeah.
thing, and then you got the rest of the.
Colleges and universities are their own thing. How can they have roots attaching them to where they are?
I mean, go ahead, brother.
I think like doing this work, I know somebody had a point here saying that like realizing that we all don't have the same shared experiences, you know, not having the same background, and doing this work really I found out that same thing because it's really hard to get the Morehouse men here like actually to be active with the work. Like a lot of them don't even know that it's a problem about higher educations in prisons. Like if you're not criminally justice impacted or if you're not a part of the program or the Andrew Young Center, then a lot of guys don't know. And so like when we try to host events, to be honest, if it's not about clothes, money, or if No Spellman Nights is there, nobody comes. And so it's hard to like try to get, and I know Dr. Jensen can speak on this as well, but it's hard to get guys that's not in the Andrew Young Center here and active with the work that we're doing. And even with like being inside like the schools, it's hard because a lot of guys, they don't, private school is not the same background. They don't really know like it's a problem in the community. They leave campus and they go to downtown next to, Georgia Tech, GSU, or leave campus and they go to Buckhead, go to Lenox Mall, and they come back. And so they never really, they're in the city, but they're never really in the city. They don't actually, see the problems, and so they don't actually like work and do what it is of being a Morehouse man, which is, giving back to your community and serving. And so,
How do you teach that? How do you teach service?
We used to do it, Morehouse used to do it a lot better than what they are doing now. But I think that part of that was a coalescing of the times, period of the civil rights movement,
Energy.
yeah, segregation, all of that. So when everybody's got the same problem, there's a sense of urgency around coalescing around a particular issue or set of issues. We live in a society that is very individualistic, hyper individualistic, that thinks in terms of how things affect me.
And the grant.
Yes, that I is the greatest word in existence, right? And so, in some sense, being active and a participant in community development, in other development, is in many ways a revolutionary act that is going against the grain.
So how do we teach y'all how to be revolutionary?
I came to Morehouse because I thought Morehouse was like, what's the word, a freedom school or whatnot, right? In my head, I didn't know a lot about Morehouse at all, but I knew where I came from and I knew what I wanted to do for my community. So I came here and I thought everyone who was at Morehouse was gonna be like me from where I'm from and think like how I thought. and that's not the case, and I think has a lot to do with, because I've reflected on this a lot, I think it has to do a lot with what you said, the times have changed, people are very individualistic now, social media, and a lot of those parents who were students at your time, now their kids are coming here and they don't have that same perspective that their parents had. So, you know, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, building your family up and whatnot out of those circumstances, but I feel like we need to emphasize the mission of Morehouse. Like, we need to figure out a way of how to, you know, get all our minds on the same frequency, right? I feel like everyone in this room, we may be from different backgrounds, but we have a lot closer of a proximity in the way that we think in our ideology, what we care about, than the school at large. So,
Is there, it's been a long time since I've been on, I mean, this is my first semester teaching here, but is there, back in the day, I think there was a community service component to graduation. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Do y'all have to do?
I didn't know that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think there
it's
is. I never heard of
mandatory.
it.
I think it's like 200 hours.
Really?
So like for scholarships and things of that nature, there's like service components.
Okay.
But like if you go on degree works, you
Okay.
don't see anything for community service.
So for the general population, it's not mandatory?
I thought there was. I thought there was.
you needed to graduate.
No, I promise you, it is on our degree works. It says 200 hours because I checked mine. Because part of the, a
No,
lot
I've
of
had
organizations.
students freak out. Like, what can I do?
Exactly. A lot of organizations
Like,
that are part of the organization, or like a lot
Now
of
let me
people
care
that are
about
like
these guys,
rides,
I have a
scholarships,
week
like,
left.
you have to do community service, so you don't really have to worry about it. Because
Okay.
Morehouse has so many opportunities, like I'm a part of Campus Line student activities, NAACP, and a bunch of other stuff, and they always offer community service in like Collegiate 100.
That's right.
So
It
how
kinda
do you like
counts.
how do you like take like document them, like put them?
Yeah, it's like you go on,
You scan your barcode.
yeah, servant leaders, and then you put your impacts and stuff, and then the person that's over the org or the event has to clear your hours and stuff, like, even for like Samatron, I don't know if you guys know Samatron, but I go to Samatron every Saturday because my friend is the president, so we make sandwiches, we all put in our impacts, we scan like a QR code, and then he just certifies our impacts.
Just the fact that this is so confusing is
Yeah,
something
yeah.
to actually figure out.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, because, I mean, I think what the brother was saying right here, when he was thinking about going to school here, he felt Morehouse was this kind of like incubator for social justice. I mean, the pedigree's here. I mean, you've got people, I mean, the reason I chose Morehouse, and I was thinking about Howard and Hampton was on the mix, because Hampton was by the water, had sailboats. I was like, yeah, that's dope. FAMU was in the mix, but I chose the house. And I mean, it's Martin Luther King. It's it's Thurman, and it's all of these incredible people who are affiliated and associated with the university, so with school. So there's that pedigree, right? And then it's the involvement of the school in civil disobedience and social justice. So
Yeah.
there's that history that you feel. So you're going to be a part of that history.
I think that's the issue as well, though, just because since Morehouse has that allure, and then when you get here, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So because of its like difference and change over so many years, I feel like when the student body kind of comes on the campus, it's kind of lost in terms of the community service because you don't always see it exemplified all the time.
Yeah.
Like, because personally, I don't know about every single community service activity that we have on
Yeah,
campus.
yeah.
The reason why I do know about certain things is because I've pushed myself to do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of students don't have that same drive because they think, oh, classes are this, or I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to go to spelling like some of the other people have said already. So it's like, just in that same like vein, it's like, if you want it, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And you
how can we
can.
grow that niche
Yeah.
group to now encompass Morehouse again?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we kind of are aiming towards, because
Yeah.
that's what we need.
It'd be interesting to see for somebody to do, and this is, I'm gonna be frank, I'm not gonna do this work, but it'd be interesting to see if somebody would do this work. It's not my field. But if somebody did an analysis or a study at what HBCUs are doing this work and doing it effectively, and what can be learned from that process, right? Not that the model that Morehouse does would be a perfect duplicate of what somebody else is doing in another community. But what institutions are really have their fingers kind of spread in the community, having impact, right? Where students are, there's not this kind of hard line
Divide.
between the campus and the neighborhood. Because most HBCUs, let's be honest, are in the hood. I mean, most of them in the hood. They're not on Beverly Hills. They're not in Buckhead. They're not, they're in the hood. So what institutions are doing that effectively? And are there ways that this institution can implement some of the things that they're doing? You know what I'm saying?
I think, and I hope I'm not going to but I think Morehouse was the perfect plan beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even, I don't know if everybody else agrees, but COVID kind of messed it up as well.
I was wondering that.
And I feel like it's because the older generation did not lay out the blueprint for the next generation, it's hard to look at what do we do. And then during that time when everybody's online, nobody was thinking about community service and everything. They were just trying to survive and just trying to get out of school.
Yeah.
So like even now, I only know about certain, as I said, about community service because I made sure that I knew the people that was older than me. And I was blessed with meeting a couple of people that knew Morehouse alum, and they kind of explained to me what is Morehouse, because I came here without knowing anybody. Like I lived, I think I forgot who said it, but somebody spoke about like I only had one parent in my household. My other parent was there, but they were in a whole different country. So it was like with that kind of circumstance, I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't know about Morehouse like that. I just looked it up online. I was like, I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU, and I didn't get into Howard, sadly. And I was like, what is the next best thing? And I applied to every HBCU. So then I looked at Morehouse, and I was like, I think this is the place I want to go to. And now I'm here, and I think this is one of my greatest decisions. But I wish that there was more people that kind of made themselves of service because there's a need for it.
I just want to acknowledge Bonner, which is right, here on the board. Like, that's what they do. That's their raison d'etre, is service. And when you go to Servant Leadership app, sign up for, there's 100 opportunities. I think once you operationalize something, it gets weird. But I was going to give Jackson for if he had a good word for us, but if not, I wanted to invite Calvin also, because you came late to presenting on your senior thesis, Calvin. But if you want to talk, you've been student ambassador 2 years, right? And it was really your brainchild that we bring students on board and not just sort of like, oh, the faculty lead the way. So I wanted, to honor your voice too.
I have to head out, brothers. I got a meeting, but thank you all. I'll catch up with y'all later, all right? Peace.
I know, I did too. I just I wanted to pop in for a little bit because I was but I wanted to pop in for a little bit. I think I had said to Dr. Jensen yesterday that I'm at least happy that I'm leaving when this program is like on the rise, and those funds that we got allocated from the congressional, from Congress will make a major difference moving forward. I think it's important to consider the fact that this isn't an issue that is separate from the community and an extension of the community, but rather it's in the community, that students are system impacted on so many different ways, whether they went through the juvenile justice system themselves or they have family members who went through the justice system. And so for me, this work is not only fulfilling in the sense that I'm doing a service unto others, but also it is helping me mentally and physically move throughout the spaces that I go into, to consider the fact that, I'm system impacted through my father. And he will forever be a part of my story. And therefore I have a duty unto myself and others to continue on doing the work that he, based on his story. That I am of some part of this work in some capacity, and whatever I can do to ensure that people are given a second chance, people are humanized, people aren't diminished because of their mistakes, but rather we try to engage with the system in a different way that lowers recidivism, that gives people a chance at education, that allows people to become closer with their families that they became distant from because of this system. And so it's so important for me that, I get to pass this on to the next generation of Morehouse students coming in. I hope the program gets expanded in terms of the capacity of people who can be a part of it. I look forward to hopefully coming back a couple years from now and seeing that there's a degree program set up for those behind bars. and hopes that, you know, students will have the same passion that I did when I came here to Morehouse and realized that this was one of the many things that I wanted to do, but this was one of the best things I did. And I always hope that this initiative grows even bigger, and I was happy to just be the starting point. Like, there are many, many people who are instrumental in this work. Now, I was just one of the starting points to push the work forward. And I look forward to seeing what Dr. Jensen does with the program and what the amazing leaders in here do with the program as well.
I don't want to interrupt the conversation. I know that people have other engagements and things that they have to do. I want to quickly say thank you to everybody for coming out here, and the student ambassadors and people that's not student ambassadors coming out here and learning more about the program. And, you know, I still want to continue to have conversation, but I know some people have to leave, and so I just wanted to say thanks real quick.
Thanks to you, Mark.
I was just here listening, like I'm not a part of this, I just came because Tristan was a part of this and I was, you know, supporting him. And, you know, like I've enjoyed the conversation. You know, I'm passionate about this type of stuff too, because it like directly affects me and my community and my families. So like I definitely will, in the future, try to engage more in the work that you guys are doing. But I wanted to like, this conversation has like made me like want to do more, but also like reaffirm things I've already believed about the college. Like, you know, like HBCUs, I feel like just by coming here, we have an obligation to serve. We have an obligation to help our community because we are the talented 10th in a sense. Like, we are like what Du Bois believe like young Black educators and like education should be. Like, we have a privilege other people don't have. And I just feel like we try to blame COVID, we try to blame all these things, but like I feel like the students here have kind of forsaken like what Morehouse is, and we have like disregarded the ability to serve and do things in the community, and it's simply because like the paradigm has shifted. Like, we're not here because we want to change the world, we're here so we can like assume different like status and power and all of these things. Like, you know, a lot of us just want to wear a pin and we don't want to put in the work. There's a bunch of people who like, you know, quite frankly don't care. And like you said something earlier, like how do you teach people how to serve? How do you teach people how to be revolutionaries? And it's like, you don't teach service. Like, you have to have that intrinsic quality in yourself. Like, you need to know like how, like, it was like a struggle between like, you know, people coming from 2-parent households, or like, you know, they don't, just because I don't come from the hood doesn't mean like you can't be in a position to help those people who like are incarcerated. And that stems from an intrinsic quality. Like we have this intrinsic ability to serve and to help others. So it doesn't matter if I don't relate to your situation. It matters if I can have compassion and empathy. And that's just not there anymore. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you have. It's like you have a fundamental level of understanding and compassion in yourself to know that there's a problem and that you want to help humanity. I think that's what MLK wanted to do. That's why we're here at Morehouse. That's why we chose HBCU. But the culture is not the same anymore because it's really the students' fault. Right? We're all responsible for this mishap because we're not creating a culture that wants to help others and wants to do it because we see that there's a fundamental issue. And I think that once we get to the root of that and we start doing things less because we want, you know, to build a resume, because we want to stroke our own egos and help other people, and then like change what happened. Because there's no way like people are like joining these organizations, these fraternities and things like that and making sandwiches. You're not going to change the world by making a sandwich. So it's like, what are you going to do to really help other people? And I think that's what we need to really like understand. Like, what kinds of things are we doing? What kinds of, like, where's our time going? Where's our energy going? Because there shouldn't be a disconnect. We're all Black. There's a bunch of Black people in the West End. Why are we not doing more to help them?
What's your name again?
Elijah Medicine.
So when you started speaking, I leaned over, because you invited him, St. John.
Yeah.
I said, that's how service learning is taught. Like, you just taught it by inviting a friend to this conversation. It's modeled, maybe not taught.
Yeah.
I think we all have it. We just have to be reminded. But
Sure.
my name's Hope. So, you know. I think, but there is, I mean, who doesn't wanna like help somebody? If a older adult's crossing the street with her groceries, who doesn't grab those groceries? A lot of people don't. All of us should be, right? At least trying to, but I think it's in us, I think we're lazy.
Yeah, the paradigm situation, man, was like this, like, it was right on point.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, when I was teaching some of the students last week, was walking towards the Ray Charles Center, and a couple of students from George Washington High School was going home. They live on Joseph B. Lowry, but they live south of the campus. So they walking past, and they see us with like the students with Morehouse hoodies on. They just like, oh dang, this where Morehouse at? And I'm surprised by that because you know, Booker T. Washington is 2 blocks east, no, 2 blocks west of this McDonald's, right on Martin Luther King Drive. So they're right there. And they was like, oh man, y'all go to Morehouse, man, what that's at? They don't know they stand right in front of the campus, like Ray Charles, so they don't know that. And they walking home every day. And so yeah, that's crazy. I think that they're a reflection of half the students at Booker T. Washington who don't know like Morehouse is like that. And it's a byproduct of like students like us who just don't even know to even think to even go over there, because why would we do that? We would stop by campus police walking over there to by that McDonald's, and they was asking us like, you know, we was walking in a group. And it's like, y'all know where y'all going? Like, y'all know where y'all at? Like, that's just what the campus police was telling us. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, I went to school, but the idea though was just like, the police officers was unknowingly, and rightfully so, by the way, I'm not instigating them, but it's the paradigms you're talking about. Like, they were unknowingly creating the separation between, do you know where you at? You got this McDonald's, like you got a train station. You know what happens over here? Yeah. And like Morehouse, like, okay, you and our walls, you good. Like you to the campus. So they don't even recognize that. I think that it's a larger thing that we just, you know, it's gotta be very revolutionary about. Back to all our point.
And to touch on like one of your points you said with like some of our students dropping the ball, I don't know if this is like a Morehouse problem or like a college student problem, but especially like since I like came here and been a part of some organizations on campus, I realized that a lot of our guys here, they just sign up, not because they love the work, they sign up so they can be on the resume. And so like, you know, like they sign up so they be on the resume, and then like people look at me like, how was you actually a part of 4 different organizations in the same school year and doing your classwork at the same time? And you know, actually doing the work and being in these organizations with these guys. Find out they don't do it. They just sign up for it, so they get accepted, put it on the resume. Do the next thing over and over again. Yep. Go to one meeting once a year, and that's it. And I think that's something that we had to change because
it's very common. I've noticed that.
Oh yeah, here, yeah, but not even as far as like I seen with this program.
But I mean that.
Yeah, there's 10 student ambassadors. That's how many are here. That's like, it's stuff like that.
Yes, and I know like you know, I text all my guys, and I know like I didn't want to do no shots, but I text all my guys. I know every guys had, you know, prior arrangements.
Aiden had a conflict.
Yep, and I know guys had conflicts, but everybody, come on, I don't even know all of our members' names. I don't even know our names. Like when I was in Ireland, Dr. McClendon, he was talking to me about one of the members, and I said, "Who is that?" He said, "You don't know his name?" I said, "No, who is that?" And he had to literally pull up the picture and show me him. And it's like, I was like, yeah, I've only seen him once, and it's like, it's embarrassing for us, like as a community, like, because when you go to these job interviews, like, I guarantee you, like, if like when I've been doing interviews and I have this program on my resume, people ask about it, and like I can share my experiences, like the podcast that I did, the twice going inside, talking to the guys inside. I guarantee you that they probably couldn't even talk about what they did in the program because they never came. And like just like simple meetings, like meetings on Tuesdays when we need to have business casuals on, and somebody come in here with Morehouse slides and stuff. And so it's just like, I feel like we're failing ourselves. So the standard.
It could have been.
Yeah, but it's like.
It's just who gets caught.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think like, as a community, the students accept it. Like, they accept it, oh, finesse your way to the top, man, come on, stack it up, you're doing that, and that. As soon as you get accepted, post that joint on Instagram with the music.
The music.
Yeah, with the music. 50 likes on the story, congratulations. And they ain't still do no, you in this program, that program, that program? Don't do no work, and so, I think like,
It's like the world though.
yeah.
I mean, we're teachers, right? And we're entrepreneurs. And so in the business world and the art world and the teaching world, it's not so different. I think placemaking would be very key here. There's no center. Where do we congregate? Where do we get together?
That's why like the indictment is, you can probably like say it's like a lot of colleges and universities, Morehouse in specific, but we're just now starting this work at the Andrew Young Center. And then literally like this organization is called the Andrew Young Center for Global Leadership, so we really have a leadership deficit in this. I think it's a lot to ask people from a self-motivation standpoint to come to Morehouse. And the first thing they do is not go to Spelman, not go to Market Friday or Hungry Wednesday, not try to like, be involved in other social student activities or fraternities or whatever. I think it's a lot to ask and tell them to suspend all that and just go like to the West End and start like doing service. Because I mean, your parents for the most part have been on you for the first 18 years. And now for the first time in a long time, you got a chance to get out of here and just make your own decisions. And you come to a campus like this, with campuses around here, like that's like, I mean, that's just a lot to ask. So from a leadership standpoint, like, as your professor, I'm gonna make it a prerequisite, that a requirement, a mandate, that you spend some time over at Booker T. Washington or the City of Refuge, go out in the neighborhood and figure out ways to get involved, with or without you wanting to do it. Now, it's one thing if you're scared, because I have a lot of students who refuse to do that because they were scared to out here. Yeah. They learned from a campus police notification on the email that somebody had got like robbed over there in Josephine Lowry, and then they just like, I'm not going over there. Yeah, so I'm not blaming them for that, but I think from a leadership standpoint, the faculty in Morehouse at large, like, there's a lot we are not doing to infiltrate, I guess, the broader community with our presence. That's just too much to ask for an 18 or 19-year-old to do on their own volition, especially those who come from environments that's so antithetical to the ones this look like. It's just a lot to ask, in my personal opinion.
And to touch on like one of your points, and that's not like me, like, I'm not saying it's like a freshman, like, I know when I was a freshman, market, Wednesday, Market Friday, I, experienced it. But for some of the sophomores, juniors, seniors, man, I've been finessing my way through every class, like especially when I'm in the group project, like, no, I've been carrying the whole class. But it's like, I think we have to do better. Like, I understand like freshmen live in Atlanta. I'm from Richmond.
Freedom.
Yeah, I'm from Richmond. Atlanta is 10 times bigger than Richmond. But sophomore year, that's when I realized, hey, let me actually start doing something. But for some of the guys that still order to be and just like still didn't get it yet, like, you wearing a suit, she not doing nothing with it, But I think there is another event here in the next 5 minutes, so.
There is. You know that university professors have unionized? Yeah.
We're not allowed to in Georgia, are we?
AAUP, yeah. AAUP is the organization, it's union. At any rate, we're meeting. But I encourage you, the door next to, or, the room next door is open. Feel free to take some food with you. I'm so grateful to Mr. Whiting and Mr. St. John for organizing this.
Thanks, y'all.
We'll make an announcement at the end of May for the next cohort. We have not decided how large yet, but thank you for